You're curled up in a polished mahogany cabin, rocked by the hum of the largest ship ever built. The air smells faintly of lavender soap and oiled brass. Everything about the Titanic feels invincible, like it's holding history in suspension, delaying time just for you. And then, somewhere in that stillness, the phone rings. It's not a grand moment. It's not a panicked steward or a clanging bell. Just a single, unexpected ring in the middle of the night, sharp and odd. Not from the hallway phone. The one inside your first-class stateroom. You sit up, bleary-eyed, heart thudding a little too fast. Who even knows your cabin number? You lift the receiver, static, then a man's voice. Clear and too calm. Check the Marconi room. Something's coming. Be ready. Click. Honestly, when I first read this story, I had to pause and just sit with it for a while. We've all heard the iceberg stories, the lifeboats, the band playing as the ship went down. But this made my skin prickle. A call, not from land, not from an officer. A call that might never have existed except someone remembered it, and everything changed. If this kind of story hits you like it hit me, consider subscribing and hey, leave a comment telling me where you're listening from or just say hi. I read them all, even the weird ones. All right, now let's slow things down and step into tonight's journey together. It's April 14th, 1912. You're aboard the RMS Titanic, drifting through the North Atlantic like royalty on a private island of steel. It's cold, but you're wrapped in blankets, lulled by the hush of water gliding against the hull. Then that phone rings. You don't know it yet. But that call didn't just wake you. It may have rewritten history. The voice on the line wasn't frantic. It was smooth, unplaceable. A British accent, maybe, but tinged with something older, as though he was trying to sound like someone else. There's something disconcerting about a voice that sounds like it's reading from a script, especially when there's no reason it should know your name. Because, yes, he said your name. And here's the thing, the Marconi room. You don't even know where that is. Most passengers don't. It's tucked deep into the upper decks, crammed with wires and the constant tap, tap, tap of Morse code. Only the wireless operators, Harold Bride and Jack Phillips, are allowed near it. So, you do what any rational person would do. You tell yourself it's a prank. You put the receiver down, shake your head, and glance at the clock. 11:38 p.m., then you check the hallway. Empty. You pad softly down the corridor, the carpet hushed under your slippers. Far off, you hear laughter from the smoking room, music from the first-class lounge, someone's still playing the piano. Nothing feels wrong. But then you spot something. Down the hallway, past the sweep of wood-paneled doors, a steward ducks into a linen closet and never comes out. Okay, maybe you're just imagining things, but that feeling in your gut, it's real. It's the same feeling you get when a dog stops barking for no reason, or when someone says your name in a crowd and you can't find their face. It's instinctual. By 11:45, you're fully dressed and wandering. You pass the Marconi room, its door closed, light seeping from underneath. You think about knocking. You don't. Instead, you pause and glance out a porthole. Nothing but dark waves and stars so close they feel like scattered diamonds on black velvet. Then you hear it, a single, clear click from the Marconi key. Not unusual in itself, but then another, in perfect rhythm. Not a message, a pattern. And then silence. You linger until your breath fogs the glass. That's when a shadow passes behind you, reflected, not felt. When you turn, there's no one there. Here's something most people don't know. Titanic's Marconi wireless wasn't just a communication tool, it was cutting-edge tech, the pride of the British Empire. They used it to send passenger telegrams, but also to test military-grade signals. The ship was receiving messages from Cape Race, Newfoundland, and some think from even further. Historians still argue whether Titanic was also transmitting experimental coded messages for the Admiralty. Some of the logs from the final night they're missing. Not damaged, not waterlogged, gone, back in your cabin. You try to forget the whole thing. The phone, the voice, the wireless room. Sleep is a shaky companion. And when you do drift off, you dream of wires wrapping around your arms, of code tapping against your skull like raindrops. You wake up not with light, but with impact. A jolt, dull and deep, like something enormous just breathed against the hull. You sit bolt upright. There's no alarm, no running, just a new quiet. The ship isn't moving the same way. It's like she's holding her breath. You throw on a coat and step outside. A steward is calmly directing people to stay in their cabins. You ask what happened. Just a bit of ice, sir. All under control. But you see it in his eyes, the edges of uncertainty. What you don't know, what no one knows yet, is that the Titanic has already begun dying. Water is flooding compartments faster than engineers can comprehend. The bow is taking on the Atlantic like it's thirsty. You head toward the upper deck. Cold bites your skin, and suddenly, you remember that call again. Something's coming. Below. Unseen and unstoppable. It already has. And now, the man who answered the call. Jack Thayer is walking toward you. He doesn't know you, but you'll follow him anyway. Because the story is about to fracture, and your part in it is just beginning. You recognize him by the way he walks brisk but uncertain, as though he's not sure if he's chasing something or running from it. Jack Thayer, 17 years old, heir to a Philadelphia railroad fortune, hair still tousled from sleep. He wears a heavy wool coat over silk pajamas, and his breath curls in front of him like ghosts trying to speak. You don't call his name, not at first. Something about the stillness in his face tells you he's not ready for conversation. But when he turns to glance back just once, you catch a flicker of something in his eyes. He's scared, and not in the way most passengers are. There's no shouting, no rush. The ship is still deceptively calm. Crewmen murmur reassurances like lullabies, and someone even jokes as they pass with a blanket slung over one shoulder. But Jack has the look of someone who's heard the ending of a story and doesn't know how to change it. He pauses near a lifeboat station, fingers trailing along the railing. And that's when you ask him, "What did you hear?" He blinks, as if he didn't realize you were there. "Nothing, just, I had a dream." He says it like he doesn't believe himself, but you both know he's lying. A quiet moment passes before he finally mutters, "It wasn't a dream." The phone rang, your pulse quickens. In a ship filled with hundreds of telephones and thousands of people, what are the odds that two passengers received phantom calls on the same night? Calls that made no sense. Calls that vanished like smoke. Jack says, "He told me to go above deck, that something was wrong with the signals." You nod. Same voice. He frowns. British. Sort of, but not. There's a long pause where the silence feels heavier than before. The cold has teeth now, and the wind claws at the hem of your coat. Jack shifts, looking out across the blackness. "I couldn't sleep after it." I felt he stops, struggling for words, like something was rewinding, like this wasn't the first time it happened. You almost ask him what he means, but then a steward stumbles past, breathless, pale, rushing toward the bridge. And for the first time tonight, someone moves like they understand what's coming. There's a sensation of being on a tipping point. You feel it in your chest, like you're standing too close to a cliff edge and the rocks are crumbling beneath your feet. You and Jack walk together, silently, up toward the promenade deck. Every few steps, more passengers emerge from their cabins, tired-eyed mothers in shawls, men pulling on gloves, children rubbing their eyes. Then you both stop, because that's when the sound begins. A high-pitched mechanical clatter, faint but insistent. Morse code from the Marconi room, only now it's frantic. Tap, 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 tap. A surge of desperation, like a heartbeat that's lost its rhythm. You glance at Jack. "I think they're calling for help," he whispers. The code continues for another 30 seconds before cutting off abruptly. In that instant, the ship feels eerily quiet again. The cold presses in tighter. The stars burn brighter. Someone coughs behind you, and it echoes too loudly. Here's a detail most documentaries skip: the Titanic's wireless operator. Jack Phillips had just spent most of that day furiously sending backlogged passenger telegrams to Cape Race, Newfoundland. The wireless had gone down earlier due to a minor fire in the radio room, wiring one of those little accidents no one talks about unless they're piecing together what-ifs, by the time Titanic began to sink. The Marconi system had only just been restored to full function. But what if that delay wasn't an accident? What if someone had been trying to interfere with the signals? Or hide one? Historians still argue whether a non-passenger entity, a government, perhaps used the Titanic's voyage to test signal interception techniques. One fragment of Morse code recovered from the Carpathia's crew logs doesn't match any known distress call. Its source was never confirmed. Jack suddenly grabs your arm. "I need to find my father," he says. "He's somewhere below deck. If this ship, if it's really..." He doesn't finish the sentence. You both move, dodging people, now starting to panic. Voices are rising. The officers still say everything's fine, but some of the lifeboats are being uncovered. An old woman cries softly into her gloves. A man insists they've struck a sandbar. Then you hear something else. From the smoking room, a low murmur, hushed and strange. You and Jack pause, glancing inside. Under a haze of cigar smoke and green glass lamps, a group of men in evening wear huddle around one chair. At the center sits an older man, gaunt, silver-bearded, eyes shadowed beneath his brow. He's whispering rapidly, and the others lean in close. Jack's face goes pale. "That's him." You squint. "Who?" "The man from the phone." Jack starts toward the room. But just as you reach the entrance, the man rises and walks briskly through a side door and vanishes into the dark. You and Jack push through the maze of wood-paneled corridors. But he's gone, like he stepped through a crack in time. You stop. Jack leans against the wall, breathing hard. The ship tilts, just slightly but enough to make a rolling bottle of perfume slide across the hallway floor. "What did he say on the phone?" you ask. Jack swallows hard. "He said the ship isn't sinking because of the iceberg." The air tightens around you. "He said we were never supposed to be on this voyage. That a signal went out yesterday. Something was triggered." Your mind races. You remember the perfect rhythm of the Morse code earlier, the one that didn't seem to say anything. What if it wasn't a message, but a countdown? Another faint shudder rolls through the ship. Jack straightens, gripping the railing. "We have to get to the officers. If there's something wrong with the wireless..." But that's when a bell rings. 3 times, then again. Not from the bridge. From deep below, you lock eyes with Jack. You both know that sound isn't part of any drill. And it didn't come from the ship. You and Jack freeze. The bell rings again. Not sharp like a ship's emergency alarm. This one is lower, almost metallic, like it was dragged across a stone before it rang. It's coming from deep below deck, lower than the boiler rooms. But the Titanic doesn't have anything below the boiler rooms. Jack looks at you. There's no reason for that to exist. You nod slowly, which means someone put it there. And in that moment, it feels like the ship has secrets far older than steel and rivets. Together, you push toward the nearest staircase, passing clusters of passengers now crowding the corridors. Some are in full evening wear, clinging to decorum like it'll save them. Others hold children wrapped in blankets. Most don't seem to notice the faint, rhythmic bell beneath their feet. There's a smell now. Wet iron, cold, mechanical like gears grinding underwater. The closer you get to the lower levels, the more surreal things become. Stewards start giving contradictory instructions. One tells you to return to your cabin. Another says lifeboats are being readied. A third just stares at the wall like he's listening to something you can't hear. You pass a crew member who's bleeding from one ear. He doesn't seem to know. And that's when you reach the lowest staircase still accessible, the one that leads to the cargo hold. Jack hesitates. You ever wonder why the Titanic was carrying so little actual cargo, he says. You blink, I didn't. Not much mail, barely any freight. But there was one sealed crate stored below. My father mentioned it once. Said it had armed guards from Cherbourg. Didn't match any passenger's manifest. You stare down the staircase. It's pitch black beyond the third step. Cold rolls out of it like fog. Jack pulls a tiny matchbook from his coat. Strikes one. The flame dances weakly. We go together. You descend. Each step creaks like a whisper. The air gets colder. Your ears start to ring. And the further you go, the more you feel like something is listening. There's no motion here, no voices. Just the gentle groan of the ship under pressure, and the faint gurgle of water licking the steel walls. You hit the bottom landing. Ahead, the cargo hold yawns open, empty except for one object. A crate, 6 feet long, black, bolted shut with iron brackets. It's strapped down like it might escape if left alone. Next to it stands a man. Not a crew member. He's wearing a dark suit, too dry for the dripping walls around him. His face is obscured by the shadows, but his presence hits you like gravity. Jack steps back instinctively. The man looks at you. Then, softly, he says, "You shouldn't have come here." His voice, it's the one from the phone. You swallow, forcing your voice steady. What is this? The man places a hand gently on the crate. This is a correction, a realignment. Jack's breathing quickens. You knew what would happen. The iceberg, the signals. You planned all this. The man smiles faintly. Not planned, predicted. I'm just a custodian of the error. You glance at the crate again. There's a symbol scorched into the side, something that looks like a spiraling clock surrounded by runes you don't recognize. It hums faintly. The man continues. The Titanic was a variable, a thread too bright. It drew attention. What kind of attention, you ask? He tilts his head. Yours. Others. Eyes that weren't meant to look here. At this time, Jack shakes his head. This is a passenger liner, not a machine. The man interrupts. She was made to run a specific path, to ferry not just people, but events. One of the passengers on this ship would go on to prevent something catastrophic, but only if they survived. Another, if they survived, would cause it. You feel your skin crawl. The man looks at you. You're not either of them. But you were never supposed to be here, were you? Jack grabs your arm. We have to get out of here. Now, but you can't move. Because the crate, it's vibrating. Slowly, one of the iron brackets snaps open. Inside, something is glowing. Not warm light, cold light. Violet blue, like electricity and memory had a child. Jack stumbles backward. We need to tell the wireless operators. You nod. They might still be able to send a message. The man doesn't stop you. As you retreat up the stairs, he simply calls out. You still have time to make a choice, but not much. The ship lurches suddenly. You hit the railing, catching yourself. A deep groan echoes through the hull. Something heavy just shifted far below. You and Jack bolt back toward the Marconi room, feet pounding on carpet that now tilts ever so slightly toward the bow. By the time you reach the operators, they're drenched in sweat. Still at the key, sparks fly from the console. Jack bursts in. You have to send a message now. Tell anyone. Tell them it wasn't just the iceberg. Harold Bride stares at him. We've already sent the distress. The Carpathia's on its way. You shake your head. No, not about the collision. About the crate below. Something's, but the lights flicker. Then surge. The Morse key jumps on its own. Not touched, just reacting. And then, without warning, it begins transmitting. No operator at the console, but the code punches itself into the void. The room goes silent. Then a reply comes back. A single word. Received. Bride looks at Phillips. Phillips looks at you. Jack mutters, who received. Historians still argue whether Titanic's last wireless message was a simple distress signal or something far stranger. Some claim it included a cipher coordinates that didn't match any point on Earth's surface. Others say the signal repeated itself after Titanic sank, picked up by ships decades later, drifting through space like a ghost trying to find a home. The ship groans again. Water is rising. You look out the window and see stars where the horizon should be. And that's when you realize the sky has changed. Not just clouds, the stars are wrong. You blink hard, once, twice. The stars don't go back. They stay strange constellations out of place. Stars you don't recognize. The Big Dipper has slid sideways. Orion's belt is missing a star. And what's worse, they move ever so slightly, like they're not fixed in place anymore. Jack grips the windowsill, knuckles white. That's not the night sky from April 14th, 1912. You nod slowly. No, it's not even the sky. Somewhere, far beneath your feet. The ship groans again, louder this time. Metal screams as though protesting what it's become. The floor tilts again, just enough to send a loose wrench skittering across the deck like a warning. And then you hear it. A hum, low, mechanical, not from the engines, not from any part of a ship designed to sail oceans. It pulses like sonar, but more ancient. Rhythmic, deliberate, like a machine trying to speak. Jack turns to you. We need to know what that crate was. You both stumble back into the corridor, following the hum. Other passengers are now fully awake, many crowding toward the lifeboats. But you and Jack move in the opposite direction down, again toward the engineering decks. As you pass one of the stairwells, a steward stands blocking the entrance. His eyes are glassy, his voice flat. No further access below this point. Jack says, "We're with the Marconi team." The steward tilts his head like a wind-up doll with a misaligned gear, then steps aside. You descend quickly. This part of the ship wasn't meant for passengers. Steam pipes hiss and leak. Coal dust clings to every surface. The temperature drops again, finally. You reach a narrow corridor that shouldn't exist. It isn't on the Titanic's blueprints. Pipes curve at unnatural angles. The walls buzz faintly. At the end of the hall, a door. No label, just a symbol etched into it. Same as the one on the crate spiraling clock. Runes, and a subtle shimmer that makes you squint like your eyes can't quite process it. Jack raises a hand to knock, but before he does, the door opens on its own, and inside is something you'll never forget. A small chamber, round and copper-colored, like the inside of an old observatory. A machine fills most of the space gears and cables woven like vines. In the center, a pedestal with a single switch. No labels, just a glowing symbol above it, pulsing in time with the hum. Standing in front of the switch is her, a young woman in an Edwardian stewardess uniform. Hair pinned up, calm as a librarian. She looks no older than 25. She turns, smiles faintly. You made it. Jack narrows his eyes. Who are you? She steps aside, gesturing toward the pedestal. This ship wasn't supposed to sail, but something glitched. The loop broke. You glance at the machine. What kind of loop, she sighs. Time is fragile. It folds badly in certain spots. Titanic's sinking was one of them, a pressure point. Normally, it resets cleanly. Every time the ship goes down, the thread closes. Jack's jaw drops. Every time. She nods, hundreds of times. You don't remember. That's the point. But this time, someone made a call. You shiver. Who she lowers her voice. We don't know. But they reach two people, you and Jack. Your throat goes dry. To warn us, she shakes her head. To observe, there's a long pause. Then Jack steps closer. That crate down below, it's a failsafe, isn't it? She doesn't deny it. It activates if someone deviates from the loop. You look back at the switch. What happens if we flip it? She smiles sadly, and then the loop resets. Everything goes dark. The ship hits the iceberg. Everyone forgets. History stays history, Jack whispers, and if we don't, the hum deepens. Then the loop ends. But the timeline breaks, and something else begins. The air in the room shifts. A subtle vibration under your feet, like a clock preparing to chime. Historians still argue whether time anomalies explain certain inconsistencies in Titanic survivor testimonies. Some claimed stars moved during the sinking, or that the iceberg was glowing unnaturally. Fringe theorists say these were glimpses into the breach moments where memory collided with event, but this is no theory now. You feel it in your bones. Jack steps back. We don't have the right to choose for everyone. She tilts her head. No one else can. Suddenly, something flickers behind her. A second door, hidden until now. It opens with a hiss. Beyond it, another version of the chamber. Dusty, decaying. No glow. A second pedestal stands inside, but it's destroyed. Jack peers in. What happened in there? She lowers her voice. That's what happens if the loop collapses without anyone choosing. A frozen timeline. No, just a glitch repeating in silence. You step toward the switch. It's warm to the touch, almost like it knows you. Jack whispers, if we reset, everything goes back. We forget this. We die. You nod, but the world continues. You grip the switch, but just before you decide, Jack pulls something from his pocket, a slip of paper, the call log. He looks at it, frowns. There's a name here. You both look, 3 letters, burned into the paper like heat-seared ink. Quam. You glance at the woman. She stiffens. That's the signature of the one who made the call, isn't it? Jack says quietly. She doesn't answer, because the machine pulses once, then starts to slow. A countdown. You don't know what Kim is, or who, but someone, somewhere, broke the rules for you to be here now, and they might not get another chance. You hear the sound of water surging through pipes rising. Louder. One choice, one switch, one call, and you're the one who picked up. You hesitate. Fingers hovering over the switch. That soft blue glow, it's not just light anymore. It pulses with something more. Like memory, like déjà vu. Like the moment before you remember a dream. Jack watches you, chest rising and falling. His voice almost a whisper. You feel it too. Right. Like we've been here before. You nod. Not just because it feels true, but because the machine hum has subtly shifted into something almost melodic. A lullaby in Morse code. Repeating 4 beats, pause long, short, long, over and over. The woman steps closer. The ship will break apart soon. Once the stern lifts, water floods the remaining circuits. This room won't survive the hour. You ask, how long do we have? She checks a small dial on the wall, shaped like a compass. 17 minutes, give or take. The clock begins ticking in your head. Jack says quietly, tell us the truth. What was this ship supposed to do? And this time, she doesn't dodge. The Titanic wasn't just a passenger vessel. It was an observational test bed. Its sinking was designed to collapse a dangerous timeline. Certain individuals on board carried future knowledge ideas that couldn't be allowed to spread. You blink. Future knowledge, like time travelers. Not exactly, more like fragments. People who'd been exposed to things they shouldn't have survived. Jack scoffs. So you sank a ship to erase their memories. She shakes her head. No, we created a condition where memory and event canceled each other out. The trauma became the cage. You step back. This isn't just about history. It's about control. She nods slowly. Memory is the most dangerous form of time travel. And Titanic was memory made solid. That hum again, stronger. Clearer, you catch a whiff of something strange, ozone and roses, like static in a garden. The air in the room shimmers slightly. The switch starting to vibrate. Jack leans against the console. Let's say we reset, the ship goes down. Everyone forgets, everything's normal. But the call someone still remembers, don't they? You pull the slip of paper again. Quam, who are they? The woman's face hardens. A breach protocol, not a person. A query artifact. Jack's brows furrow. A what now? A sentient signal. Sometimes, when a loop is corrupted too many times, the system sends a living transmission to check continuity. If it finds instability, it reaches out. You stare. The call wasn't to warn us. It was to test us. She nods. Jack laughs under his breath. Of course, we were the rats in the maze. The glow dims for a moment, then returns brighter. 14 minutes, she murmurs. You press a hand to the wall. The vibrations have intensified. You feel it in your teeth, like the ship itself is starting to unravel. And then, a faint voice in your mind. Not words, not sound. More like a thought shaped by gravity. Choose, you whisper to Jack. What if we didn't flip the switch? What if we just walked away? The woman's eyes widen. You can't. Why not? She hesitates. Because indecision is a decision. If the signal ends with ambiguity, the loop fails. Time fractures. Jack clenches his fists. So, either we pull the lever and accept oblivion, or we break the loop and gamble on what? Cosmic entropy. She says nothing. And that's when you remember something. Not a detail, not a fact. A feeling. You remember the first time you walked this hall. The wrench on the floor. The hum. The glow. The paper. This isn't your first reset. You've chosen before. You've pulled the switch. More than once, Jack must see it in your face. You remember, don't you? You nod. I think we've been doing this for years. Centuries. Every time we choose safety. He steps back from the pedestal. Then maybe it's time we don't. You glance at the woman. What happens if we break the loop and survive? Her answer is almost inaudible. Something new. You grip the edge of the console. In your mind, you see all the possible outcomes branching out like frost fractals of timelines. Some dark, some glowing. You could walk away. You could stay. You could pull the switch. But instead, you reach for the paper again. Those 3 letters, quum. You speak them aloud. Nothing, then everything. The hum halts, the air thickens, and the switch pulses so bright you shut your eyes. A voice fills the room. Clear, calm, ageless. You have deviated. You turn toward the pedestal. A second voice now. Feminine. Soft. Deviation accepted. Loop status closed. Jack stares in disbelief. Wait, closed. The woman nods slowly. You did it. You found a third option. The air shifts again. The machine begins to unwind. Not collapse. It folds like an origami bird curling into itself. And the room around you blurs. One moment, you're on the Titanic. The next, you're not. You're standing in a white corridor. Clean, silent. Cool air hums from hidden vents. Jack stumbles beside you. The woman's voice echoes faintly behind you. History is malleable, but choice is sacred. You blink and you're back. The Titanic, again. But something's different. The hum is gone. The stars are back where they belong. The ship is still sinking but not breaking apart. People are being ushered to lifeboats with calm efficiency. Officers no longer seem confused, and the crate gone. In its place, a message written in frost on the cargo hold wall. Signal ended, story remains. Historians still argue why certain passengers described a sudden calm in the final hour of the Titanic. Lifeboats launched with precision. Morse transmissions ceased, but no one recalled stopping them. Some survivors remembered strange dreams. Others spoke of music playing where no band had stood. None could explain it. Except, maybe, you. Jack grabs your shoulder. We made the right choice, didn't we? You exhale, I think. We made a choice. The rest is up to history. He laughs softly. And somewhere, far above, the stars continue to shine. But this time, you recognize them. The ship groans again, but it's not fearsome anymore. It's more like an old cathedral settling into quiet prayer. Each creak part of a song you can almost follow now. The air is calm, unnaturally so, as though time itself has paused to watch what you'll do next. You and Jack stand on the upper deck now. The lifeboats are being loaded with far more control than you remember or thought possible. There's no chaos, no shouts, no desperate cries for place or rank. Officers speak in tones of reverent calm, as if they've done this before. You wonder if maybe they have. You walk past a man helping his wife into a lifeboat. She clutches a worn handbag. You catch a glimpse inside a folded letter, something that looks like a code chart, and a tiny bronze dial. Odd, yes, but you don't ask. Somehow, you already know not everything you're seeing is part of this version of the Titanic. Not anymore. Do you think everyone else knows? Jack murmurs. Keeping close. Knows what you reply, that this is different now, that we broke the loop. You look around, and it's strange some passengers do seem different. More aware, their eyes scan the sky too often. Their gestures are subtly off for 1912, like people trapped inside roles they no longer fully believe in. But others look like they always did, blissfully unaware, anchored in the timeline that was maybe not everyone was meant to know. You whisper. Maybe some people still have to live it out. Jack nods slowly. A partial reset. Soft landing. The ship lurches again, gentle, like a nudge. The iceberg has already been struck, but the great liner holds together far longer than it ever did in your history books. Water is rising, but not rushing. Like the ocean itself is giving everyone one last chance. You pass the wireless room again, and there stacked neatly by the Marconi set is a stack of telegrams that weren't there before, all marked with the same initials in red ink, Q-A-M. Jack leans in. They sent more than just a call. You pull one of the telegrams, your fingers trembling slightly. The message reads, observe, reframe, remember. Another flicker of déjà vu strikes you, and then something truly bizarre. You hear a sound from the bridge. Not a shout, not a bell, but laughter. You and Jack rush forward. The doors open. The Captain Smith himself stands with both hands on the wheel, smiling faintly. At his feet, an old gramophone plays a low, haunting melody, one that doesn't belong to 1912. It's a modern tune, distorted, but you swear it's a version of a song that won't be written for another 50 years. You stare, Captain. He turns to you with weary eyes. The sea takes us again, but not for the same reason this time. Jack steps beside you. Do you know? Smith nods. I know enough. I've seen this ship rise and fall more times than you can count. You whisper. Then why stay? He smiles. Because someone has to hold the wheel while the world tilts. A chill runs through you. He adds. They sent a message this time. I read it. QAEM isn't just a protocol. It's an invitation, a way to bend memory towards something new. Jack leans on the railing. We're not in 1912 anymore, are we? No, says Smith softly. You're in the fragment between what was and what might be. You want to ask more, but the ship shifts again. The deck dips. The sea claims another inch of the bow. Jack turns to you. We're not going down with it. Not this time. You nod. We have to get to a lifeboat. As you move through the crowd, the world bends in quiet ways. A child hands you a metal disc that vibrates in your palm, etched with constellations you've never seen. A stewardess whispers a line of code in your ear, something digital and ancient all at once. A woman with no shadow sings a lullaby you know from your childhood, but in a language lost to Rome. Historians still debate whether the final lifeboats launched from Titanic carried only passengers. Some testimonies reference silent figures in odd uniforms or messengers who vanished before the boats hit water. Fringe theorists claim there were observers, people who didn't belong to any manifest, whose job was simply to watch the end unfold. You wonder if you and Jack have become those people now. At boat 14, you pause. The officer waves you in without a question. And then, just before you board, you see her again, the woman from the pedestal room, the one who opened the door. But now she's dressed like any other passenger. Wide brim hat, gloves, eyes fixed on the sea. You step closer. She whispers without looking at you. The loop is sealed. The story continues. But now, so do you. Jack grabs your sleeve. We're out of time. You nod. I know. The two of you climb down into the boat. The ropes creak. You hit water. You drift. The ship looms above like a cathedral cut loose from heaven. And as it tilts and begins its slow descent, a beam of cold moonlight strikes the very spot where the Marconi room once buzzed with life. You see a flicker of electricity, one final pulse, then darkness. But not erasure, not this time. This time, the memory remains. The lifeboat rocks gently. Jack breaks the silence. So, what now you stare out over the black mirror of the Atlantic, we remember. And far beneath the waves, something hums quietly, but it no longer calls for rescue. It's simply there, waiting. For what comes next, you wake to stillness. Not the sharp stillness of fear, but that soft, velvety quiet that comes after something has passed. After the tide has gone out. Around you, lifeboats bob in rhythmic harmony. The stars glimmer faintly above. Too calm for the chaos that preceded them. It feels wrong. It feels right. Jack stirs beside you, hair damp, eyes heavy. Did it happen? All of it. You nod slowly. It happened, and it's still happening, because the ocean isn't just water now. You can feel it, like a hard drive with a heartbeat, storing versions of events, waiting for someone to decrypt them. Each ripple carries a timestamp, each wave a different file. Across the water, the Titanic is gone. It didn't explode, it didn't scream, it just unknotted, folded into itself like it had reached the end of a paragraph. The lifeboats drift silently, but there's no panic. The people aboard don't clutch or sob. Many are asleep. Others whisper softly, but not about loved ones left behind. No, they whisper numbers, coordinates, phrases from other centuries. You turn in your seat. A boy, no older than 8, is sketching something into the frost that's formed on the side of the boat. Not a flower, not a name. A circuit diagram. You lean closer. What's that? The boy shrugs. A dream I had. It was inside a wall, and I think it was singing. Jack chuckles, tired. Of course it was. You sit back and breathe. The stars above seem familiar but somehow off. The Big Dipper tilts just a little too far east. Orion's belt twisted, like a misplaced jigsaw piece. You're not in 1912. Not exactly. You're somewhere adjacent, a liminal ocean. And then the sky blinks. Not a shooting star. Not lightning, just a blink. Like an eyelid passing across the sky for a fraction of a second. Jack saw it too. That wasn't a flare. Nope. We're not done, are we? You exhale. Not yet. From one of the other boats, a woman stands. Her silhouette is crisp against the dawn. You realize it's the same woman again, the one who opened the door, who stood by the console, who vanished into the deck. But now she's holding something up. A lantern. Its flame glows blue. Every person in every boat turns toward her, drawn not by command, but instinct. Like birds circling a magnetic pole, she raises the lantern once, then lowers it. And then all across the lifeboats, people begin to speak. Not in unison, not like a cult, more like a chorus tuning itself. They speak numbers, names, dreams, one by one. Rome. 64. A.D. Wright Brothers, alternate test flight. Plague ship deviation. Lunar echo. Failed loop. Jack leans toward you. They're identifying. You nod slowly, reframing. Because somehow, you realize what's happening. Everyone here was part of a collapsed loop. Some subtle, some massive. Titanic wasn't the first or the last. It was just the loudest. The call that got through. You speak without thinking. They're survivors of broken timelines. Jack blinks. Is that why we remember? Yeah, we were meant to. The woman with the lantern calls out. Finally. Her voice is clear across the water, phase integrity restored, narrative channel open, and from somewhere nowhere a soft tone pulses. It sounds like a bell underwater, or maybe a heartbeat in reverse. One by one, the lanterns in each lifeboat light up. Blue, soft, steady, and then a boat emerges from the mist. Not a rescue ship, not the Carpathia. This vessel is silent, black-holed, smooth like obsidian. It doesn't cut the water, it slides through it, parting the sea like a curtain. There are no flags, no crew on deck, but the blue light shines from its prow, and something tells you it's not your first time seeing it. Jack says what you're thinking. That's them. You nod, or us, or both. The boat draws alongside your lifeboat without a sound. A ramp extends not mechanical, not wood, something that unrolls like memory made solid. You and Jack climb without words. Inside. The air is warm and silent. Screens line the walls, but not modern ones. They look like mirrors that blink. Each one flickers with scenes some you recognize, some you almost recognize. The Hindenburg, the moon landing. A child speaking to an astronaut underwater. A sandstorm swallowing a library. Each frame carries a label. Most are marked with one of 3 tags. Stable, fragmented, looping. Jack leans into one. A scene of the Titanic's grand staircase, but instead of water, it's filling with flowers. Tag looping. He whistles. That's beautiful, terrifying, but beautiful. You point to another. A burning city, but time's running backward. People rebuild as fire retreats. Tag fragmented. Jack looks at you. What's the goal here? You look up. The ceiling of the ship isn't a ceiling, it's the night sky again. Only now, you see the constellations moving. Just slightly orbiting a fixed point. A symbol, 3 letters. Q-A-M. And then it clicks. Kua isn't a code. It's a place, Jack frowns. Or a network or a map. The screens begin to blink in rhythm. And for the first time, you hear the real voice. Not from speakers, from inside the walls. Inside your bones. Memory is not linear, nor is it safe. But it is recoverable. Jack whispers, "We're being briefed." The voice continues. This incident marks containment of the Titanic loop. Signal absorbed, timeline stabilized. Extraction pending. Extraction. You look out the viewport. The ocean below is gone, replaced by stars. Not above you, beneath you. You're not on a boat anymore. You're in transit. Jack whispers, "Are we still us?" You consider, and you answer honestly, "I don't know." Jack's hand finds yours. It's not fear. Not exactly. It's more like anchoring. You're both unmoored now, drifting somewhere between timelines and realities. And even your breath feels like it echoes in multiple directions. Outside the obsidian vessel, stars glide by at impossible speeds. But they don't streak like comets, they flow, like painted constellations across a scroll being slowly unrolled. "Where are we going?" Jack asks, his voice hushed, reverent, and the ship answers not with words, but with a gentle shift. The walls shimmer. Suddenly, you're not in the ship anymore. You're on a street, cobblestones, gas lamps, a fog that smells faintly of ozone and wet leaves. But this isn't London. Not quite. The buildings have angles that shouldn't exist. Windows ripple slightly. A man walks by in a bowler hat, holding a glowing tablet. You're in a preserved sliver, a pocket reality, tucked away like a forgotten bookmark in time's vast novel. A voice reaches you again, this time from inside your own mind. You are in Archive Layer 7. Titanic variants are stored here. You and Jack glance at each other. Parents, you start to walk. Each alley opens into another timefold, another version of April 1912. You see a Titanic that never hit the iceberg. You see one where the ship flew, yes, lifted on anti-grav fins, docked at a skyport over Manhattan. You pass a room where everyone aboard was replaced with faceless dummies, endlessly sipping tea, and one where every single passenger is a version of the same woman. Her, the one who lit the blue lantern. Jack's voice quivers. These are all real. The reply comes, calm and certain. They were, you understand. This isn't a museum. This is a hard drive, a memory bank. And someone or something is curating every variant of Titanic's fate. You follow the corridor until it opens into a theater. Red velvet chairs, a silent stage. You sit, Jack beside you. The curtains part, no actors, only a screen. Footage plays grainy but familiar. The Titanic as we know it. The crash, the panic, the tragedy. But then frames intercut. A woman with a device on her wrist whispering into a mirror. An officer freezing time for 6 seconds to rearrange the deck order. A burst of blue light over the iceberg, carving it in two before impact. Each moment flashes real, unreal, maybe, never, almost. Jack leans forward. What are we supposed to do with all this? The voice again. Reconcile memory with truth. You close your eyes. And suddenly you're back on the Titanic. But this time, the ship is fully submerged. No screams, no movement. Just you, walking calmly through the grand staircase. Through water that parts like curtains. Your footsteps echo on the marble, though they shouldn't. At the base of the staircase is a single door. You open it, and there, on a pedestal, is a phone, an antique handset, polished to a shine. Ringing, you answer, and your own voice greets you. Hello, it says. Do you remember? You try to speak, but the voice continues. The loop didn't need to be stopped. It needed to be understood. You tremble. Why me? The voice replies softly, because you were willing to ask the question. You didn't accept the script, and then it's gone. You're pulled up. Fast, like a reel of film rewinding. Back into the corridor, back into the ship. Jack is blinking beside you. I saw something, a different ending. You nod, so did I. A final chamber opens. Inside is a table. On it, a message. Final call. One loop remains. Decide, and 2 buttons. Reset, remember. Jack looks at you. What if we choose wrong? You shake your head. There is no wrong, just different. You press remember. The ship hums. Light blooms. You feel yourselves returning not to 1912, not to the ocean, but to your world. You're now only something's different. When your feet hit solid ground again, you're standing in a museum. The Titanic exhibit. People mill about, but they're all silent, staring at something new. A display encased in glass. A telegram burnt around the edges, but legible. It reads, observe, reframe, remember. And beneath it received, April 14th, 1912. Timestamp anomaly outed. Source unknown. Jack gasps. We did it. But then you see the plaque beneath the display. It lists passengers. There, among the names, is yours. And Jack's labeled unverified. Known variants. 3. You step closer to the glass. Your reflection doesn't move when you do, but it smiles. The voice returns one last time. Memory is the most powerful technology ever made. Use it well. And then finally you feel still. Everything fades, everything calms. The last echo of the ship's bell drifts through the air, and you breathe. Now, let's slow things down. Let the echo of that final bell drift a little longer. You sit quietly, letting your breath settle into its soft rhythm, one inhale for memory, one exhale for truth. The stars above, or perhaps within you, feel just a little more aligned now, even if you don't fully understand what just happened. If Jack is real, if the ship sailed, if that blue lantern ever flickered, something deep in your bones whispers that it mattered. You might feel a bit strange, like you're carrying someone else's memories in your pocket, tucked between your to-do list and your grocery receipt. And maybe you are. Maybe the past isn't behind us at all, but beside us, folded delicately like a paper map with smudged corners and secret roots. If your mind is buzzing, that's okay. Let it hum gently, like the static of a forgotten frequency. And if your heart's a little heavy, or curious, or even hopeful, know that it's because you've just glimpsed something rarely seen, a version of history not as a line, but as a living, looping thread. Tonight's journey might fade into dream soon. The edges might blur. That's all right. Maybe that's the point. Just let it go, little by little, like a lifeboat in calm water, like a timeline no longer fractured, like a memory held and then released. Sleep comes softly now, like fog over still ocean. Let yourself drift in it, light and unburdened. No questions, no answers. Just rest. You've traveled far tonight, through history, through possibility, through something stranger than fiction and older than time. So close your eyes, dear listener, and if, in your dreams, you hear the sea whispering your name, don't be afraid. It just means you remembered sweet dreams.